My name is Matt, and I'll be your first mate today.
Hey, Matt.
Hello. At the front of the boat, we have adult life jackets in those 2 white bins. There's a third bin to the rear of the boat, left to the captain, with more adult life jackets. Children's life jackets are hanging from the ceiling in the black bags on either side of the helm. Should we start taking on water, we'll pass out the life jackets, place them over your head, strap around your waist, tighten the strap, do the same for your children, and then follow me because you can just walk safely back to shore. Average depth of the river is only 3 to 5 feet, so I'm pretty sure we'll be okay. Anything you'd like to bring back to the dock with you, that includes phones, cameras, purses, wallets, husbands, wives, and children, please keep them inside the rails. And please remain seated at all times so the Captain Bass has a clear view of the river. If we see something worthwhile standing up for, we'll let you know when it's safe to do so. So let's take a ride down the river. Our first question of the day, this one decides whether you boat back or swim back. Does anyone know the name of this river? Weeki Wachee, congratulations, you get to boat back today. Trick question. This is the Weeki Wachee River, and it is fed by the Weeki Wachee Spring. Everybody came from the Mermaid Show? Perfect. Well, when you went to go see the Mermaid Show, you were staring right at the head of the spring, and that's where all this water comes from. Although it's only 3 to 5 feet deep here, there at the Mermaid Show, in the natural spring, it is over 400 feet deep. So the mermaids use the top 30 feet for their show, but it goes down over 400 feet below them. The water comes out at a rate of between 117 and 150 million gallons of water a day. So to put that into perspective, that's enough water to give every resident of Florida 7 glasses of water every single day. The water comes out at 99.8% fresh, pure water. You could drink this water. It's just less recommended after a busy day at Buccaneer Bay. And the water temperature is 72 degrees year-round, so if you're from the north, you'll find this refreshing. If you're from Florida, it's going to be freezing. As we travel down this crystal clear water here, you'll notice many species of fish in the river. The predominant species here are the gray fish that you'll see. Those are the mullet. Those are also the fish that you'll see jumping out of the water. They like to jump out. You may also see sheep's head. Those are the ones with the vertical black stripes. You may also spot some needlefish, long, narrow ones with a green tint to them. And also snook, spotted gar, mangrove snapper, yellowtail jacks. Now, all those species of fish that I just named off are all saltwater species, but here they are in the freshwater. They do that through an ability called urohaming, so they can change their metabolism, survive in both freshwater and saltwater. So there are many species of saltwater that can do that. No species of freshwater can do the same. So our freshwater species we have here are the largemouth bass, brim, minnow, bluegill, just to name a couple there. Now all the vegetation that you see on the bottom of the river, that is eelgrass, tape grass, and that's pretty important to the ecosystem of the river. Helps to control erosion, provides a habitat for many of the creatures that live in the river, such as little fish and apple snails and turtles, and provides food for many of the creatures that live in the river, including the manatee. Now we are coming into manatee season here within about a month, 6 weeks. Manatee season is generally during the winter months. As the Gulf of Mexico cools down, the manatee are susceptible to cold stress. So as the Gulf of Mexico cools below 68 degrees, the manatees all migrate into the rivers and springs along the nature coast because the water here is always 72 to 74 degrees year-round. So during the winter months, it turns into a big manatee hot tub. But when they are in here, they do eat the eelgrass. Average manatee is around 1,000 pounds and eats 10% of its body weight every single day. So that's about 100 pounds of this eelgrass each and every day. Big, big salad. They also eat the water lettuce that you see along the shore here, water cabbage coming up here, and they eat the arrow-shaped leaves along the shore called ptera. We did see a couple of manatees last week and in the past few days, so we'll keep our eyes open. You never know this time of year whether or not you'll see one, but you're looking for a big gray potato. And we call the babies tater tots. But off to our right over here in the water cabbage, I do have a little blue heron. That's that little blue bird you see there. It's an adult-sized little blue heron. Doesn't grow up to be a great blue heron. It's as big as he gets, different species. And this tree you see off to our left is a bald cypress tree. It's called a bald cypress because it's the only species of cypress to lose its needles over the winter months, giving it a bald appearance. And that's a fairly young tree, only 100 years old. But if we look further on, we'll spot another bald cypress tree with the cypress knees sticking up around it. And that tree is around 400 years old. We have trees in the park, cypresses that are around 600 plus years old. Those cypress knees are part of its root structure, helps to stabilize the tree in wet environments it likes to grow in, and provides oxygen to the roots. Now this island that we're coming around here is called Monkey Island. They called it Monkey Island because when this place was privately owned by ABC, they housed spider monkeys on the island. No need for cages or anything like that. They just had a little house on that platform that you see there. However, in 2008, when the state took over the park, the monkeys were removed because they're not native to the state of Florida, and the state wanted to make this as natural and wild as possible. So they relocated the monkeys to a refuge down in Tarpon Springs to enjoy their retirement. You can still see them to this day down there. They did keep 2 of the monkeys, however. They put them on board the Aquabound. That's how Captain Bass and I got our jobs. It's a short commute. They pay us in bananas. I'm looking over at this tall stand of pines on our left-hand side here. If you look toward the back of those pines, toward the top of one of the trees, you can actually spot a bald eagle's nest. And I'm looking for the bald eagles now, and I don't spot any right now, so they're probably out hunting or gathering supplies for their nest. This is the 3rd nest that this mating pair of bald eagles has had in this stand of pines. The first nest was blown down about 5-6 years ago, and then this spring, the 2nd nest was blown down by a tornado when it came through the park. So this is their 3rd nest that they're working on now. And they come down every winter. They've been coming down for about 16 years now. George will come down first, who's the male bald eagle. He'll arrive, he'll work on the nest, and then Martha will fly down, and as long as she is satisfied with the nest, she'll get in the nest. If she's not satisfied in the nest, she'll stand outside of the nest and wait for George to fix it. But they migrate north during the summer, they migrate south during the winter. Original snowbirds. But a cool thing, American bald eagles, they mate for life. So they'll stay mates for life. They'll have their young in the nest there. They'll have 2 or 3 eaglets. 1 or 2 will survive. And as soon as those eaglets are old enough to feed and fly, they kick them out of the nest. So the kids never come back, only the parents come back. We can learn a lesson from that. I did see a little bird in front of us. I'm not sure where he went. I think he went hiding. That was a pine-billed grebe. Looks like a duck, talks like a duck. It's not a duck, it's a grebe. I think he went hiding. The grebes also come down every winter. They're another migratory bird. We had maybe a dozen of them or so last year, but they became one of the favorite snacks of the American bald eagle. So we just had one that came back this year. But they make nests on this sawgrass here. The sawgrass has these little sharp serrations on the edges of the blades of grass, and that helps to protect the grebe from predators. That will cut you if you try to walk through it in a pair of shorts or grab onto it. And just like us, predators don't like to get cut up either. So lots of little animals will make nests in the middle of that sawgrass to further protect them. And over to our left, we have an anhinga in the tree here. That's that black bird that you see. It's a male anhinga, you can tell because of his black neck. Females have brown necks. And he's just sitting there relaxing in the sunlight, preening himself. He is a diving bird, so he'll actually dive down into the water, swim through the eelgrass looking for all the fish that he likes to eat. And as soon as he finds a fish, he'll stab it with his beak, bring it up to the surface, flip it around, flop it up in the air until it goes head first right down his throat, like a good piece of sushi. But they are waterlogged when they come out of the water. They have very little oil in their feathers, so they rely on the sun and wind to dry their feathers. So you'll see them often spreading their wings on a pylon or tree. That's how they dry their wings. Distant cousin, or the close cousin of the cormorant. So cormorants tend to be in saltwater, and anhinga tend to be in freshwater. And anhinga means evil forest spirit. I'm just checking for kayakers here. We lovingly refer to them as speedlers. on up a little closer, Cap. All clear, Cap. We got some that just came around the corner, but they're like 100 yards out of Cypress. Now these little red flowers that you see off to our right along the shore there, those are cardinal flowers. They started blooming about 3 months ago. They're starting to come out of bloom now. Very, very beautiful flower. Now, one question we get quite a bit is, do we have alligators in the Weeki Wachee River? No. And the answer is, yep, we're in Florida. You can find an alligator in a mud puddle. It's pretty uncommon to see them in this part of the river. This water is crystal clear and fast moving. Alligators are ambush predators. It's pretty hard to ambush anything in this crystal clear water. So they prefer murkier, brown, muddier water, where it's more easy to hide and hunt that way. We do get them though. They're usually younger ones, 5, 6 foot long. They'll stick around for a couple of days to a couple of weeks, realize the hunting is pretty bad here, and then they'll move on to other parts of the park that they like. And we're just north of a huge preserve called the Weeki Wachee Preserve, and that is mostly swampland down there, so you'll find a lot of the gators down there versus up here in the river. Now all the gray stuff that you see in the trees, all the cypresses and pines and live oaks, that's all Spanish moss. It's not Spanish, it's not a moss, but we still call it Spanish moss anyway. Distant relative of the pineapple, oddly enough, it's an air plant in the Vermilicae family. Doesn't hurt the tree at all, just grows and collects. When too much accumulates, the wind will blow it off to another branch, where it'll reproduce from there, or it'll drop to the ground, where it'll die from lack of nutrients from the air. There's a pretty interesting origin story of the Spanish moss here in Florida. When the Spanish first came to Florida, after sailing for months and months and months, thousands of miles, they'd make landfall, then they'd climb the trees to survey the land. Well, when they looked back towards sea, they saw mermaids. And if you've been a sailor at sea all that time, mermaid is top priority, pretty exciting stuff to a sailor. So in their excitement to go find themselves a mermaid, they fell from the trees, and their long gray beards were caught and left behind in the branches. And that's how you have Spanish moss. That's a true story. I read it on the internet. Now coming up on our right, we have the state tree of Florida, that palm tree that you see sticking out over the water. That is the Sable Palm, or cabbage palm. Also, the yellow flowers are aquatic marigolds, and today is the first day that I've seen them bloom, so that's actually pretty cool. Sable Palm is our state tree of Florida. If you've ever eaten hearts of palm, that's exactly where that comes from. Although a little turtle hanging out on that, made it quite a ways up. If you've ever eaten hearts of palm, that's exactly where that comes from. Although it's illegal to harvest hearts of palm in Florida without a permit, because harvesting the heart does harm the tree, and that tree is protected in this state. But in other parts of the world, that's where you get your hearts of palm, or swamp cabbage. So that was the state tree of Florida. Does anyone know the state bird of Florida? No guesses? Snowbird. It is the northern mockingbird, oddly enough. Mosquito is close second. Now off to our right, we do have Wiki Freshwater Adventures. If you'd like to try your hand at kayaking the Weeki Wachee River, you can go to wikiwachee.com or contact them, make your reservation. They'll set you up with a kayak, paddle, life vest, everything you need to do to go down the river. They'll push you off the ramp, you'll float down the river about 3 miles, takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours to do. Not much paddling to be had, just let the big 5-mile-an-hour current take you right down the river. And at the end of that, they'll actually pick you up and drive you back to the park, so you don't need to paddle back upstream. And the Seminoles named this river Weeki Wachee, which means little spring or winding river. Weeki Wa meaning zigging and zagging, Chi meaning waters. So if you take that kayak trip, you'll definitely understand why they named it Weeki Wachee. It's very narrow, very winding, but a beautiful, beautiful river. And the state protects about 7 miles of this river. So it's beautiful, pristine, crystal clear water. That kayak trip is top rated. And if you ever get the chance to kayak the Weeki Wachee River, definitely take it. It's well worth the experience. You should probably have a paddle or two under your belt before you kayak the Weeki Wachee River. There is a strong current, and before you learn to paddle, you'll experience the inside of every bush along the way. And speaking of kayaking, we do have snakes on the Weeki Wachee River. We have over 100 different species of snake on land here in Florida. We have two that we see on almost a daily basis here in the river. We have the Florida banded water snake, which is non-venomous, long and slender, dark red bands, round head. And then we have the water moccasin, which is venomous. He's a little bit stockier in the middle, diamond-shaped head, cat eyes. Pretty easy to spot the difference between the two of them, but generally, if you just leave them alone, they'll leave you alone too. They're an important part of the ecosystem here. I prefer to give them a ton of distance, though. We're coming up into what I like to call the Turtle Hotel. It's where we see a lot of our turtles during the day. They prefer this little cove here to get plenty of sun. And as you can see, there are probably about a dozen turtles out. They camouflage very well with the algae and the vegetation along the shore there. But take a look as we go by and spot at least a dozen turtles I can see offhand here. And most of these are yellow-bellied sliders, peninsula cooters. We also have red-bellied sliders. There's a red-bellied slider way back there. And coming up on the log, sticking out at a 45-degree angle, you can see a pretty large yellow-bellied slider there, as long as another one on the log sticking out. So we have the slider turtles, but we also have soft-shell turtles, and we have alligator snapping turtles. We have a quite large alligator snapping turtle that lives around here. He's between 70 and 80 pounds. He's a pretty big guy. It's pretty rare to see him. He's usually hiding in the vegetation as much as he can, waiting for his prey to come by his beak so he can snap him up. Now, anything you didn't see in the river today, keep your eyes out when you're swimming in Buccaneer Bay or the next time you watch the Mermaid Show. Anything that's in this river has an opportunity to be up in Buccaneer Bay or in the Mermaid Show. So you may see fish, you may see turtles, snakes. There was an alligator that came into the Mermaid Show once. They took care of that pretty quickly, and that was his last day at Weeki Wachee. He was relocated, don't worry. But during the winter months, especially December and January, exceptionally so, we get a lot of manatee in the Mermaid Show. So you'll be watching the Mermaid Show, and then all of a sudden manatee just swimming in the background. A pretty cool experience. But as we approach the dock, please remain seated until we're secured to the dock and the gate is open. If you're on the right side of the boat, keep your arms and elbows inside the rail so you don't receive a free Weeki Wachee souvenir splinter. And on behalf of Captain Bass and I, we appreciate you coming on our river cruise with us today. You've got a Mermaid Show at 1:30 and 3. And next Ranger Experience is at 2:15. We love this river. We love sharing it with you. We hope you love it too. Have a fantastic day at Weeki Wachee Spring State Park. Thank you.